Principals are an incredible component as we move forward because in times of limited budget, myself as a budget person, I'm looking for leverage. And principals truly give us that leverage point. There is not a single school that I've ever been into that is a great school that did not have a great principal. A principal is no longer somebody that just pushes paper and makes sure the lights are on. We can get that taken care of. But what we really need is we need somebody who has an excitement about building a team around that school so that we can have best practices within that school. Because each and every school is a unique organism, you might say. They have very different characteristics as far as their student population. So there's no one model that fits every school, and I think that's where the principals come in, is they can take their skill set and hopefully adapt it to the needs of that school in bringing the teachers together, bringing the students together, and bringing the parents together. We got a lot of great programs out there. If you look at the professional learning communities and the impact that that's making on our kids and the education that they're receiving, there's so many great things, and I think that's one of the things that too often, it's kind of like bad news sells. And not only is that true with the press, but it's true in politics. And we need to start talking about the great things that we're doing. One of the things that I often say is, if we don't start talking about the great things, people aren't going to invest in us. I know as an investor, I don't put good money in bad investments. So if all we're doing is focusing on the bad parts of our education system, we're not going to be able to move forward. Often we talk about the cost of education. Well, we need to start talking about the cost of not educating these kids. To have 25 to 30% of the kids not graduating from high school in today's world, to not have 25 to 30% of the kids not graduating from college maybe is unacceptable. But for high school, that's completely unacceptable in a world where brains matter. You can't work on brawn when there's 2 billion people in the world today that work for under $2 a day. You're not going to compete against them in an industrialized society. It's hard to double the time that a high schooler has, but yet in the early years, I can take somebody entering kindergarten who might be 2 years behind. And we have several programs out there. Highline School District is a great example, where we're taking kids who are 2 years behind, and in 8 months we have those kids at grade level. We need to make sure that this works, and we need to make sure it works for several reasons. One, we need to make sure it works for the students, because currently our system is not serving the students to the capacity that they need it to serve. We need it to serve the parents, because the parents right now, as far as taxpayers, are skeptical about the process and the investment that they're going to be asked to make. And so there's a lot of needs to that. It's very, very complicated. Obviously, any time that you're changing a system that's been around for 30 years, there's a lot of entrenched factors in that, and there's a lot of reasons why things are the way they are. And so instead of saying, completely throw out everything that we've done in the past, what we're trying to say is, let's go back to a rational basis. Let's make sure that everything we do is based upon research, and having it based upon research and those best practices, we can make sure that we're getting the biggest bang for the buck in education. We always hear about unfunded mandates. Well, what unfunded mandates specifically are impacting your district, and how can we do it better? So, like all problems, not just tell us about the problem, but tell us about the problem and give us your idea of a solution. When I hear a great story from a principal or from a teacher, I'm going to tell that to my colleagues, and that's really how we relate. If we're at this esoteric level that education is good, well, everybody's going to say that. But when I can relate real-world stories of how what we're doing here in Olympia is impacting kids and the schools and the principals, that can really make a difference.